Hello, everyone, and thank you for the opportunity to speak to the MSA Coalition. My name is Dr. Nabil El-Ghoroury, and I'll be talking today about coping with grief following an MSA diagnosis. So, our objectives for today are going to be um, looking at what are the stages of grief, and then the bulk of our session is going to be on coping strategies. How do we deal with those different feelings that you might experience? And then finally, we're going to talk about overcoming barriers to some of those coping strategies. Um, a little bit more about me. I am a licensed clinical psychologist. I've been licensed for 20 years with my PhD in clinical psychology. I spent 7 years in a public hospital in Cleveland, Ohio. I spent 14 years in association management as an executive and as a CEO, 4 years as a CEO. And now I've started a business, executive therapy and consulting, where I do virtual counseling, psychotherapy into 39 states. I'm authorized to do therapy into the majority of US states, including the DC area, DC, Maryland, Virginia, Texas, Illinois, Washington, Pennsylvania, and a bunch of others, not California, not New York. I also do speaking on mental health issues, and I do executive coaching. I love graffiti, so you're going to find street art photos throughout my presentation. So that's a little bit about me. The road to multiple systems atrophy diagnosis is long. And as all of you know about this is not an initial diagnosis. It's one that often comes after a diagnosis of Parkinson's first, and then that doesn't seem to explain everything, or interventions don't work as anticipated. So this has been a long journey. And many of you may have already experienced many of these stages of grief and feelings over the course of that path towards that MSA diagnosis. But we're going to start with talking about stages of grief. That road can sometimes feel like a roller coaster. And it can sometimes feel like you're a roller coaster and you're stuck upside down on that roller coaster. How many of you felt upside down on that roller coaster? I can imagine, trying to figure out what's going on is so challenging, so frustrating that it's foreseeable that you might have a gamut of emotions during the time that you're waiting for the diagnosis. So the classic stages of grief model is by Elizabeth Kubler-Ross. You may have heard of this. It's often talked about in terms of grief with reference to death, but it's also related to stages of grief to any other things, including medical diagnoses. The classic definition is this linear model that starts with denial, shock and denial, then anger, bargaining, depression, and acceptance. And it was initially thought of that it would go in this linear stages. However, I'm going to steal some thunder ahead. It's not always linear, and you may go through these at different points. But keep that in mind as we go through this. So denial is not just a river in Egypt. Yes, that is the River Nile. The Nile doesn't go to the pyramids. And so I wanted to make sure people knew that this was in Egypt. In fact, this is me with my father, Dr. El-Ghoroury. I took him to Egypt for his 80th birthday in February of 2020. The photo on the right was February 15th, 2020, right before the world shut down. But anyway, denial is a feeling that people have of shock, of disbelief. Can't believe this is happening. Can't believe you got this diagnosis. The behavioral aspect that comes along with this is often an avoidance to or refusal to look at prognosis, to look at outcomes, to look at data. So really putting your head in the sand, literally, and not wanting to think about it. Now, anger is another stage, and it's perceived to be the second stage in this model. And anger obviously comes with feelings of outrage, frustration, irritability. Behaviorally, this can be seen at yelling at loved ones or yelling at medical staff, rage at home, road rage, short temper, short fuse. So this could happen in a variety of settings, both towards the family member, towards yourself, towards your caregiver, towards your family members, towards other family and friends. Third stage in the Kubler-Ross model is bargaining. And so this stage often involves kind of praying for a solution. Please, God, let there be some kind of solution. Thinking about trade-offs, both realistic and unrealistic. It can often come with feelings of anxiety during this time. So people who are religious may be praying a lot during this stage. Depression, is the fourth stage in this model, and this is characterized. So symptoms of depression include an extended period of sadness, so 2 weeks of feeling sad, hopelessness, guilt, worthlessness. So not more than just sad, feeling helpless, feeling hopeless, feeling worthless. Suicidal ideation could be a part of those thoughts. And then other depressive symptoms can include low energy for an extended period of time, low interest in activities that you used to like to do, low concentration. So not really being able to concentrate, just sort of not being able to do anything. Sleep problems. Typically, for most problems, it is less sleep, but for depression, it could be more sleep, like not wanting to get out of bed. Moving slower, so that kind of goes along with low energy, but just sort of a real behavioral apathy, like just not wanting to do anything. And then problems with your appetite. It could be eating too much or not eating at all, not having no desire to eat. So depression, the last stage is acceptance. And acceptance is recognizing the illness and moving forward. It is about exploring options. It may come with feelings of peace. So that would be the final stage in this model. Now, once again, it was perceived initially to be a linear model. Like you go through one stage to the other, and therapists work to help get you to acceptance. Okay. But the truth is, we meander through these feelings back and forth. So you might go from anger to acceptance to depression to bargaining to anxiety to denial to depression to acceptance, and you're rotating back and forth through all these things. So while it was perceived as this linear model, sometimes it feels like you just have like a bowl of spaghetti, like your feelings are just all over the place, and that is normal. If you have felt all over the place, like a bowl of spaghetti, that's normal. You are not really different from anyone else. That is in the normal range. So I hope that is somewhat comforting to folks. So let's talk about, how do you deal with these feelings? How do you deal with the feelings, the variety of feelings, from denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance? It runs through the gamut of human emotions. And the first thing really is to accept and express what you're feeling. Accepting and expressing your feelings. So often we don't acknowledge what we're feeling. And so accepting what we're feeling, sort of being aware, identifying, and saying it. Oh, I'm feeling sad. I'm feeling angry. And so the first step is notice those thoughts and feelings. Those thoughts are running through your head. They may be coming out of your mouth. Just notice to those thoughts. Notice those feelings. Share your feelings with your loved ones. I'm feeling terrified about my future. That's a pretty powerful thought to have. And you may have other thoughts like that. I mean, it may be as serious as, I don't know if I want to live anymore. Those are feelings. Those are real feelings that you might have. And then for partners, for caregivers, and for people around you, it's important to reflect those feelings back. So recognize and reflect that feeling back to them. It sounds like you're really scared about what's going to happen in the future. That's what a partner might say to a person who has MSA. You could journal those feelings. So write them down. And journaling does not have to mean, I recognize that MSA comes with physical impairments, that you may not be able to manipulate a hand and write anymore. But journaling can take many forms. Journaling could be writing physically by hand or typing. It could be dictation. Most Word documents have a dictating version that you can hit the microphone and it will voice translate. And frankly, part of it is about getting it out. Then you could also on your phone, the Notes app has dictate, texting has dictate. You can find ways to write down. But the idea is to get those feelings out of here, out of your head, out of your noggin, and get them out. Holding them back it's like trying to hold back the tide. It's very powerful. So it's better to let it go, express those feelings. And in speaking about feelings, we need nomenclature. We need words for these feelings. So this is an emotion wheel. You can actually buy a copy of this off of Amazon. So I took a screenshot of an Amazon document. There are 6 kind of core emotions that other feelings are derivatives of or versions of or nuance of. Happy, sad, disgust, anger, fear, and surprise. It's basically the cast from the Pixar movie Inside Out. You might have seen that movie with your with grandkids or maybe with your kids. Great movie, one to watch if you are struggling with your emotions. I fully embrace that because it was really thoughtful on how they dealt with emotions. But what I like about this chart is it gives more words for you to express how you're feeling. And I'm going to focus on, I think fear, anger, and sadness are common reactions in Kubler-Ross's model, but you could also feel happiness at different points of your life. Like you're not always going to be mourning. So you can experience happiness and joy while you are also experiencing grief, pain, and loss. So let's go a little bit into that. I've come up with a couple sets of words for anger, angry, and sad. And the angry ones are more in a hierarchy, I would say, at least for me. So this is my interpretation of what is like softer levels of anger to more intense levels of anger. So peeved is definitely low. I feel peeved. Irritated is still fairly low. Resentful is, you're starting to crank it up a bit. Insecure is a different form of anger, I would say. Devastated is now getting more angry, more upset. Infuriated is now like, would be very angry. Hateful, that's a strong word. I don't feel that often. Now sad, these are more nuance of the word sad. I would not say they're in a hierarchy. So sad, aspects of sadness can be lonely, indifferent, vulnerable, empty, apathetic, powerless. I could see this one being very meaningful to a lot of people with MSA and family members. Melancholic. So I don't think these are in a hierarchy. They're just different aspects of sadness. Like I said, Inside Out has some great images. And one of the things about the movie is it's okay to express all of them. These are all inside us. And you want to sort of have a balance about that. And it's okay to feel sad. It's okay to feel angry. It's okay to feel fear. So expressing and accepting and expressing your feelings is your top strategy. Now, another big strategy is mindfulness. Now, mindfulness really is an evidence-based practice that really does reduce stress and help you deal with the challenges in your life. Mindfulness is taking a moment to be present and to notice all your senses. What's going on around you? What do you see? What do you hear? What can you touch? What can you taste? What can you smell in any given moment? There are mindfulness routines on YouTube, on apps. You could find different types of mindfulness exercises. And the bonus about mindfulness is it can help with pain. One approach, one theory about pain is that pain is basically attention, a spotlight onto the part that is hurting. And mindfulness can shift your attention in your body to your breathing and your senses. And while it's not affecting what's going on in your body, it's changing what you are focusing on. And that can change the perception of pain. So your pain might go from an 8 to a 5 or a 4 with some mindfulness exercises and deep breathing exercises. So that's a bonus benefit potentially of mindfulness. Now, what are some great resources? There's YouTube clips for all types of mindfulness, mindfulness for pain, mindfulness for, I have not looked on YouTube, but I'm sure there's mindfulness for Parkinson's. So there may be some for mindfulness for MSA. I haven't looked. Podcasts that have mindfulness exercises. There's different apps. You see like Mindful, Healthy Minds, Calm. My patients really enjoy this mindfulness clip called Leaves on a Stream. And it's a little video where you close your eyes, you imagine you're by a stream, and you put every thought that you have on a leaf and let that leaf float on by the stream. This video has the sounds of running water, like a brook or a stream. So it's got that gentle water sound, and it helps you kind of get in that moment. And even if it's just 10 minutes of peace, that's a good benefit. But the other part is mindfulness. Mindfulness is not just exercise for the brain. Mindfulness is like CrossFit for the brain. It's like super exercise for the brain. And it can help you change what you focus on, as well as how you feel. It is an evidence-based strategy. So it is really powerful, and I encourage you to look into ways to use it. Now, if mindfulness is CrossFit for the brain, then to me, deep breathing is like a set of bicep curls. It's kind of a core basic exercise you're going to do. You can do them a lot easier than a whole CrossFit exercise. You can't do mindfulness while you're driving, but you can take some deep breaths while you're driving. Deep breaths are great at slowing your mind, slowing your body. You can do them anywhere. So suggestions for you might be try it before or during a medical appointment or before a medical procedure. It might keep you calm, help you get into state better, and just help you deal with feelings that you might be having. In medical procedures, it might be anxiety. So let's do an example of belly breathing. So I want everyone put a hand on your chest and put a hand on your stomach. You can't see, but I'm putting a hand on my stomach. And we're going to do deep breaths that will push out your stomach hand, and your hand on your chest should stay still. You're going to inhale slowly through your nose and deeply, and let your belly push your hand out while your chest hand doesn't move. We're going to hold it for a few seconds and then breathe out slowly through your lips, pursing your lips like a bubble, like you're blowing a bubble. And we're going to hold it again. So let's do that all together. Let's do that all together. You ready? Breathe in. Breathe out. Feel that hand on your stomach go in. Hold. Breathe in. Breathe out. Hold. One more time. How'd that feel? Deep breathing can really slow your body down, help you learn where you're feeling tension and let go of that tension. You can repeat it up to 10 times or more, but sometimes just a few deep breaths can make a big difference. So deep breathing is something you can do at any time. One pattern that could work for a lot of folks is what I call box breathing, which is a count of 4. Breathe in for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds, breathe out for 4 seconds, hold for 4 seconds. The US military teaches this to its soldiers, to its troops, because when you're in the field, you've got seconds to calm yourself and figure out what you're going to do next. So you learn from going from a high, from diving out of a plane, hitting the ground, breathing, and figuring out what your next tactic is. And so deep breathing is a way to help you do that. Now, self-compassion is something that is very important. And I think I love this slide because I love this piece of street art. Give it your best every single day and don't be so hard on yourself come nightfall. So many professionals have a hard time giving themselves a break, and they're so hard on themselves, particularly at night. So giving yourself some self-compassion is very important. So part of this is about noticing those negative thoughts, like we did with expressing your feelings. Remember, if you're doing this, you would have already started journaling. And then reflect. Review the evidence for those thoughts. Are you accurate? When you say, I'm a total loser, are you? Like, what's the data for it? This is part of what we do in therapy. We examine the data for your thoughts. And then refute. Create counter statements to those statements. I'm not a loser. I have been, or I'm so stupid, I didn't take my medicine. I am not stupid. I take my medicine like 98% of the time. It's when I do changes to my routine that I don't that I forget to take my medicine. And reframe. Reframe? What would you say these criticisms to a friend? Most people would not say these criticisms to a friend. What would you say to a close friend? Say that to yourself. Give yourself the grace that you would give your best friend. And then finally, recenter, which is practicing that mindfulness. It comes back to mindfulness, sort of being grounded. So I love these strategies. These really are helpful strategies, evidence-based. These are based on cognitive behavior therapy and mindfulness tactics that do work on feelings and emotions and thoughts. Now, why do I have Christina Aguilera's cover album here? It's not just because I think this is her best album, but it's because when you are dealing with major medical issues such as MSA, getting back to your basics are really critical. And the basics include exercise, sleep, diet, your healthcare needs, including your medications, and hobbies. So, do your best to keep up with the exercise routine that's appropriate for you and your physical state. So obviously here, talk to your PCP, But if you can go for a walk, go for a walk. Work on your sleep. So if you can't go for a walk, go before noon, get some sunlight outside, because that will help with sleeping. Try to get sleep, try to go to sleep and wake up at the same time every night and every morning. Use mindfulness and deep breathing to help you fall asleep, or if you do wake up, to go back to sleep. Eat a healthy diet with fiber, with vegetables, with fruits. That will help with that's one of the basic things. Healthcare needs include taking your meds, following up with your doctor's appointments, and then hobbies. Do things that bring you joy, that you have fun with. For me, I love street art. So I'm always looking for street art. And when I go to new cities, I go to different neighborhoods and take some photos of street art. Even if it's just a couple photos, that brings me joy. And then I go and look at them, and I catalog them. I try to find out who made the paintings. Reading, watching funny videos, whatever it is that brings you joy, do those things within reason. Like if eating brings you joy, you probably shouldn't be eating like a bag of jelly beans every day. But but doing things that are healthy for you, listening to music, reading, watching some videos online. Social connection is very important for us as humans. We are social beings by nature. And one of the greatest predictors of longevity is social connection, the number of friends you have. It increases mental health by decreasing depression and anxiety, decreases the impact of stress. Where can you get social connection? From your friends, from your family, but I'd also think about support groups, even MSA Connect. You can share questions and provide input on different thoughts. Connect with the people in a similar position to you. That is a wonderful way. And MSA Coalition is doing a great opportunity, giving you a space where you can create community with other people and other caregivers of folks with MSA. Gratitude. So what is gratitude? Gratitude is acknowledging a positive outcome and recognizing an external source for that outcome. Gratitude, again, is an evidence-based practice. It improves mood, and it has a physical impact. It can help you feel better. I'm not going to say gratitude is a cure for MSA by any stretch of the imagination, but it can help on the edge. Like it can help what you focus on. Everything is like attention is like a spotlight. And when you're focusing on how bad your life is, you don't see anything else. But when you focus on gratitude, you shift your focus to something that is more positive, and that is helpful. So how can you do this in real life? How can you do this in real life? You can actually look for joy in your life. I love this. But gratitude, you can journal every day, 6 p.m., 7 p.m. after dinner, 1 to 3 things you're grateful for in a day. At the beginning, it will be hard. So you can say, I'm grateful for my lunch. I had a tasty salad, or I'm grateful for a cookie. It can be more meaningful. I'm grateful I got to hold my grandchild today and that I could hold her. I was giving this talk to another group and to a healthy older gentleman, healthy guy in his 50s. He came up to me and he said that when I was talking about gratitude, he came up to me afterwards and said that he had been practicing gratitude on his phone. He had a folder in his notes app, and every date was a new entry. He'd type in 1 to 3 things he was grateful for, maybe a photo or 2. And by the time he reached me, he was talking to me, he had 1,200 days on his notes and his gratitude folder. That's a powerful memory. Like his gratitude muscle. He was like the Jason Momoa of gratitude. Like, how powerful was his gratitude muscle? He said something really meaningful, which was when he was in a funk, he would open up his folder and look it up. He would open the gratitude folder and read some of the things he said, and that would be enough to get him out of that funk he was feeling. So that is it. Gratitude really is an evidence-based way to change your mood. So gratitude, I think joy, looking for joy in your life. I was on vacation in Maine. We were driving over a bridge and I saw these 3 giant rubber duckies. And I basically drove a U-turn exiting off the bridge. Like, we are finding this. And we walked on the bridge, lower bridge, and we got a photo of these inflatable animals. So looking for joy in your life. What brings you joy? Be aware of that and then seek that out. And I'm not saying ignore the negative stuff in your life, not at all. If you are feeling sad, it's okay to feel sad. Feelings are like waves and they will come and go. What I'm saying is, don't just focus on the negative. Don't just focus on the sadness and the anger. Allow other feelings to break through as waves. And you can with joy, with gratitude. The power of touch. So as social beings, we crave physical touch. That was one of the hardest things about the pandemic and social distancing, was the restrictions on seeing people and restrictions on getting hugs and being with people. Physical touch is incredibly powerful. It's another evidence-based strategy. Physical touch can save lives. With preemies, preemies born 25 weeks is basically the edge of life. Anyone born below 24 weeks basically does not survive. Above 25 weeks, 24, 25 weeks, they have a chance. Parents who are taught how to touch their kids, infant massage, so touch therapy, those kids have higher survival rates than families where the parents were not taught those things. Touch can save lives. So consensual touch, consensual hugs. So if you're not in the mood for it, I'm not saying go for a hug. But if you are a hugger, get those hugs. Seek those hugs out. Spending time in nature. So this is related to mindfulness, but it's so powerful seeing beauty in nature. These are 2 photos that I took. One is from Acadia National Park in Maine. The other is, what is it? Antelope Canyon in Navajo Nation in Arizona. And in that place, literally every photo was stunning. This is just one random photo I took. Spending time in nature decreases stress and blood pressure. It decreases cortisol in your body, improves mood and self-esteem. So it can really make a big difference. And the Japanese call it a forest bath. And so I say, try to take advantage of that. If you can, go for a walk in a park, a place that has a paved path. So this path right here in Maine has a path. The one in Antelope Canyon, if I recall, was stairs down and then in sand. So this would have been hard for people who have difficulty walking. But there are ways to get this with mobility issues. There are ways to access beautiful things. You don't have to always go where it's very physical. Laughter is really powerful. Is laughter the best medicine? I tend to think so. It changes what you focus on. It's all about focus. Laughter exercises many systems in your body, including your respiratory, your cardiac, your muscular system. It decreases tension, it activates, then relieves the stress response. So for an example for laughter, so I think it is, I think it is a strategy for dealing with pain because it changes your focus. So let me show you a joke. Something happened earlier in a few years ago. So picture it, right? Um, April 1, 2020. Remember, that was 2 weeks into the pandemic in California, maybe a week if you're in other states. And everyone's got cooties. They're super stressed. I was CEO. I was trying to figure out how to keep my employees safe, but allow us to keep doing our work. So I was spending a ton of time at work. My partner worked for an optometrist office. He was furloughed because it wasn't deemed emergent. And so he wasn't working. So my partner and I sent this photo to my stepbrother and stepsister on April Fools. Really? He stole my look. And then we laughed. We laughed making it. We laughed sending it. We laughed with the responses back and forth. And then at some point in the text chain, we said, we could pull this off for a month. And what did one of them say? Prove it. Oh, you want me to prove it? Oh, I have 24 more photos like this. What was really powerful was, if you remember, April 2020 was a scary time. And I got to experience joy and laughter, planning each photo, taking the photo, sending it, getting the text back. I did that every day for a month. That was really helpful at one of the scariest times in, like, as a professional, one of the scariest times of my career. So this was a great way to manage stress, to cope with some of the anxiety that I was feeling at the time. Oops. So faith and community, I think, are another coping strategy. Often they come with acceptance. Going to your religious group, talking to your faith leaders is very valuable. And if you find comfort in that, I encourage you to seek that out. It really is helpful. Now, we're talking about MSA. I'm talking to some people and some of the staff at MSA Coalition. It is hard because it kind of makes you rechange your life. So I think redefining life goals is another important aspect. Here we're talking about letting go of past goals, creating new, more achievable goals. And then questions to think about are, what really matters? Do I have time for that? And that, the second question, actually, both these questions relate to anything you have. I did get these from a blog post on Psychology Today. I love these questions. They're relevant anytime. So when you start getting mad at someone who took a parking spot closer to the hospital door, does it really matter? Does that really matter? And then really communicating with your partner what you want to do. So if you have a bucket list, that's why I picked this photo from Google Images. If you have a bucket list, think about what matters and think about, can you achieve those? And do you have time for it? Do you have time, and do you have the energy? Do you have the physical capability to do it? You may not have the time in the future to do it. So if you really wanted to see the Alhambra in Granada, Spain, it's got a lot of steps, but it's a beautiful, beautiful Moorish architecture in southern Spain. If you have the physical capability and the resources, go while you can. There's no one saying you can't. Rethink some of your life and try to figure out how to make those things happen. Therapy can be very helpful if you are struggling with this. I would think about, going to therapy can include individual therapy and group therapy. You can you can ask your physicians, your neurologists for referrals. You can look in Psychology Today. Now with telehealth, it's much more common. You don't even need to go physically into an office, which is good because a lot of therapist offices are not accessible. So you could think about some different options for psychotherapy. And one of the things I thought about is, you know, the one time that, you know, getting the diagnosis versus all the other things that happen, including different changes over time. So this is not one experience. It's multiple barriers, multiple hurdles. So you might be feeling like you're hitting every hurdle in a race. And so some of the challenges are that this is ongoing. And so what that means is that you may be entering in and out of different stages of grief at different times. So you may be doing fine for a while, and then suddenly you can't drive. Or not suddenly, gradually, you start losing your skills and then you realize you can't drive, so you give it up. But then that brings a whole other set of losses and feelings. And you might be back at denial or back at anger. So there, you go through these feelings, and it's not like you're static at any one point. These stages, remember we said it could be like a bowl of spaghetti. You're going back and forth, and that's normal. That is okay. So here are some helpful tips. So I think intentionality, trying a new strategy to work on, pick one strategy and focus on it. Like if you're going to focus on expressing your feelings, do that. If you're going to focus on laughter, okay, then figure out how you're going to get laughter in your life. Think about progress, not perfection. So, you know, the best interventions, you know, like ideally you would do mindfulness every day. But if you start and you only do it 3 times in a week, that's 3 times more than you did the week before. That's great. Keep that up. Let's just build on that success. Pick one strategy at a time. So don't try to do all of these things at once. Problem solve. So try to figure out what can you do to help with what you're doing. So sometimes that could mean schedule time in your calendar. Think about likely scenarios and how to manage them. So exercise, you know, I think scheduling it or having an accountability buddy. But I think finding a buddy for accountability is wonderful. So let's say you decide to go for a walk with a friend at a park. So you've got exercise, you've got social connection, you've got spending time in nature. If you're talking, you're probably going to have some laughter. And then you might even have a hug at the beginning and at the end of the walk. So you've got 5 different strategies from one tactic, which was go for a walk. Love that. Keep doing those kinds of things. So in sum, the road to a diagnosis, the road after the diagnosis is long, is winding. It has a lot of challenges. So there's a number of feelings that are very normal to have as you're coping with grief during a diagnosis such as MSA: depression, anger, bargaining, denial, anger, bargaining, depression, acceptance. And those are normal. You're going to go in and out of those feelings. I've given you a summary, an overview of about 10 different strategies that you can use to help with those feelings: accepting and expressing feelings, mindfulness, deep breathing, social connection, exercise, spending time with nature, various things that you can do to help self-compassion. I hope you are able to try some of these tactics. Try one, give it a shot, make it a habit. So it takes about 3 weeks to make a habit, and then try a new one and add it to your repertoire. So until you keep increasing your toolbox. But in sum, I hope these tactics are helpful. And in conclusion, it's been a privilege to share these opportunities, these ideas with you. I hope that this information is helpful and that you take some tools for how to deal with grief after an MSA diagnosis home with you. Thank you very much. So now I got to figure out how to turn this off. Let's see, stop share. Okay.